Uncle Harold said I'm off to a good start, although the story reminded him of something, but he couldn't place it. Then he said he didn't think my readers would know what bursitis is. When he asked me how I knew what it was, I told him I'd heard Mr. Monroe complaining about his bursitis after attempting a full lotus position while doing one of his yoga tapes. Uncle Harold felt I should define bursitis for my readers. Okay, here goes. Bursitis, noun, inflammation of a bursa. Bursa, noun, a bodily pouch or sac between a tendon or a bone. Uh, Tendon, noun, a tough cord or band of dense white fibrous connective tissue that unites a muscle with some other part, as a bone, and transmits the force that the muscle exerts. Fibrous, adjective, containing, consisting of, or resembling fibers. Fiber, noun, a thread or a structure or object resembling a thread, as. Okay, my definition of bursitis. Bursitis, noun, a mysterious pain in the back left leg that has great significance that won't be revealed until an important part in the story. Even though Howie was a daring, adventurous, and ready for anything kind of puppy, he didn't want to go to the Dogwarts Academy for canine conjurers all by himself, so he asked his best friend Delilah to go with him. He knew she would like the idea of going to school because she was very, 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 very,
very, very, very, very, very, very, very, very, very, very, very, very, very, very, very, very, very, very, very, very, very, very, very, very, very, very,
very smart. See Book 2, Invasion of the Mind Swappers from Asteroid 6 by Howie Monroe. Delilah was a dog who lived down the street. She had curly blonde ears, long eyelashes that moved faster than a hummingbird's wings, and, as was mentioned in the previous paragraph, a fine mind and good working order. Following the directions contained in the letter he received after sending in his application and $10, Howie led Delilah to the place where they were to wait for a minivan with the words "Whiz on Wheels" written on the side. The place was an abandoned gas station on the wrong side of the tracks. When the Whiz on Wheels showed up, the doors would open, and they were to say, "Yippity-yup!" "I'm ever so grateful you invited me to join you, Howie," Delilah said in a British accent as they waited. Sorry, guys, I can't do a British accent, okay? "Why are you speaking in a British accent?" Howie asked. Delilah did not have an answer for this. It was only the beginnings of things not being what they had been before becoming oddly strangely different. Suddenly, a van the color of night, well, more like dusk, really, pulled up in front of the abandoned gas station on the wrong side of the tracks. The doors opened. It was impossible to see inside. Howie and Delilah looked at each other, gulped, and said, "Ippity-up!" All at once they were floating through the air. Up into the van. The door closed behind them. "All aboard for Dogwiz," said a disembodied voice. The van lurched forward. There was no driver in sight. "Wow," said Howie, as he looked at the other dogs already seated. "Blimey," said Delilah. "Hello," said the scraggly-looking puppy Howie sat down next to. "Hello," said Howie. "Who are you?" "I'm Snivel," said the dog. "I'm poor, but please don't hold that against me. I come from a long line of canine conjurers. My brothers and sisters all went to Dogwiz, and now I'm going too. I'm going to be your new best friend." Howie started to say, by way of introducing himself. But he felt a sudden twinge of pain in his back left leg. "Oh," he moaned, "my bursitis." "Did you say bursitis?" said Snivel. "Wow, you're Howie Monroe. My new best friend is Howie Monroe." How did Snivel know who he was? Howie glanced worriedly at Delilah. Delilah glanced worriedly at Howie. Howie was worried that something terrible was going to happen once they arrived at Dogwiz. And Delilah was worried that she was going to be saddled with a British accent for the rest of the story. When Howie arrived at Dogwiz, everyone stared at him and muttered, "That's Howie Monroe! That's Howie Monroe!" Howie thought that this was strange at first, but then decided it was very nice. Everyone must have read his first two books, It Came From Beneath the Bed by Howie Monroe, and Invasion of the Mind Swappers from Asteroid 6 by Howie Monroe. Which turned out to be true, but it was not the reason everyone recognized him. Everyone recognized him because of his bursitis. A giant dog named Hamlet explained it all to him. "Your parents, Howard and Heather," Hamlet told him, "were conjurers of the first order. I tell you, laddie, they were known far and wide for their conjuring. Howie wondered at Hamlet's way of speaking in apostrophes. But there's an evil force in the world, boy lad. So evil his name cannot be spoke. When ye speak of him, ye must say, the evil force whose name cannot be spoke. Cool, Howie thought. This evil force is big, Hamlet went on. You mean big as in powerful? Howie, the ever-curious dachshund puppy, asked. Nah, I mean big as in fat, Hamlet explained. One day, the evil force whose name cannot be spoke did a terrible thing. The most terrible thing he ever done. He destroyed your parents, lad. The good and saintly Howard and Heather. And he nearly destroyed you too. He woulda, if you hadn't run for it. Howie was disturbed. How could Hamlet have used an apostrophe in saintly when he hadn't even dropped a letter? Still, he sensed that there were more important questions to ask. Why did the evil force whose name cannot be spoke destroy my good and saintly parents? How did I escape? Why don't I remember any of this? When do we get to eat? Aye, you'll be eating in the chamber of chow soon enough. But before you go, let me tell you the rest of the story. The evil force whose name cannot be spoke didn't like your parents because of the way they treated him back in grade school. And being an evil force and all, he was one to hold a grudge. He also didn't care for the way your parents used their conjuring powers for good and not for evil. That just got on his nerves. So one day he sat on him. Howie gasped. The picture that came to his mind was not a pretty one. They was squished. Pure and simple. There's no nicer way to put it, boyo. But you frisky, quick-footed thing, you ran out of the way just in time. And all you were left with was... bursitis in my back left leg, Howie said, finishing the sentence for him. Aye, said Hamlet. You've got the gift, laddie boyo boy, kitty me laddie-o. You're meant for conjuring. That's what they'll learn you here. But be warned. The evil force whose name cannot be spoke has got it in for you. It's just been waiting for you to claim your special powers, and when you do... What? Howie asked, as a cloud of concern passed over Hamlet's brow. Just don't go near the doghouse o' doom. That's all I can tell you. The supper bell rang, and Howie, hungrier than he'd ever been in his whole life, ran off to join his friends in the chamber of chow. On his way, he passed a small building under a tree. The tree was whistling. A talking frog named Hoppy said to him, Hoppy doesn't want you going near that small building, sir. It is not a good idea, sir. But why is the tree whistling? Howie asked. That is the whistling willow, Hoppy told him. Its music has charms and will lure you to the small building, sir. And oh, dear sir, Hoppy cannot say the rest, sir. No, indeed, sir. It, sir, wouldn't be, sir, wise, sir. Howie wondered why everyone spoke so oddly here. Then remembered that he was the author, so he supposed it was probably because he made them talk that way. Is that the doghouse of doom? Howie asked. Hoppy hopped away. Hoppy cannot say, sir. Oh no, sir. Hoppy cannot say. Sir. Howie stood frozen to the spot. The whistling willow whistled I'm a Little Teapot, almost succeeding in luring him to the doghouse of doom. But the song reminded Howie that he was hungry. Off he ran to the chamber of chow. He could hardly wait to eat. Uncle Harold says I have an impressive vocabulary for a puppy. Wow! I impressed Uncle Harold. That means a lot to me, because I think Uncle Harold is an awesome good writer. He told me I like the characters named Hamlet and Hoppy, although they seem familiar somehow. Then he said maybe I was being a little too self-promotional because I mentioned my other books several times. I told him I wasn't being self-promotional. I was providing valuable information to the reader. He said, uh-huh, and walked away. Well, I better get back to my writing. I can't wait to find out what happens next either. Guess I'll have to write it and find out. Note to myself, what does vocabulary mean? Look it up.